Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question, which I'll flip in right here. This is basically in my chocolate milk post-workout video. He wanted to know, hey, why does it need to be low fat? I eat a lot more fat in my diet for whatever reason. I feel better, my mood is better, blah, blah, blah. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about that. All right, the chocolate milk video, I absolutely said that. Yeah, it does have to do with low-fat milk being better, or low-fat meals in general post-workout are better. That's based upon some other research that's out there, along with some basic common sense. I discussed some of that research in another video, which I'm going to link down below, and I have a link to the research in that video because I discussed the data a bit, and then I linked the research down under it. So this isn't just like an arbitrary statement I'm making. I'm going to get into some of the obvious stuff with it afterwards, but in that video I discussed in the research, we've got data showing that actual dietary fat consumed shortly after working out can blunt training response. It seems to blunt adaptation to training. We don't know the mechanism by which it does this. All right, so when someone says, Jason, well, why does it do that? I don't know, and neither do the best researchers in the world. I have no idea. I have no clue. How often are you going to hear someone say that on YouTube? I don't actually have a fucking clue. But the data shows that high-fat meals post-workout actually blunt some aspects of the hormonal response to training. They blunt the response to training a little bit, which means that consuming a bunch of fat right after you train isn't going to be a good idea. It's not a good idea. In fact, for people, I would say people who are going to consume ketogenic style diets, maybe that's why you're consuming a really high fat diet. If you're not on a ketogenic diet and you're consuming a high fat diet, I'm going to recommend you not do that. All the top health experts in the world are going to say, hey, that's not a good idea. It's fine to add in a bit of extra healthy fats, but if you're consuming a high fat diet and it's not like a ketogenic diet done for some medical purpose or for a pure weight control purpose, probably not the best idea. But if you're on a ketogenic diet, I'm going to recommend you eat very lean proteins post-workout. Instead of your normal higher fat foods, get in protein and avoid the fat immediately after you train. Eat a high protein meal. You're going to be better off for it. Don't consume a bunch of fat post-workout, even if you're on that style of diet. Now, you've got that to consider, that we don't understand why it's blunting the training response, but then we have another factor to consider. When it comes to post-workout nutrition and even pre-workout nutrition, obviously carbs and protein are superior. Your number one most important thing to be consuming after you train is carbohydrates. Now, am I saying that you need to gorge yourself and consume an enormous amount of carbs right after you train until you're sick, or you need to get sugar in or some highly processed food? No. I'm saying that immediately after you train, the next meal you have should be carbohydrate oriented. That's all I'm saying. And that's pretty simple and straightforward. Muscle glycogen replenishment is a useful tool after you train. And if you're consuming a bunch of fat, you're consuming less carbs. In fact, if you're consuming a bunch of fat, you're slowing down the gastric emptying of your carbs and your protein. And again, I'm not saying it's necessary to consume a bunch of high glycemic index fast absorbing sugar after you train. That's not what I'm saying, because in fact in the other video I broke down with the chocolate milk on that, I broke down that the only time people benefit from that stuff is when they train fasted. That's what those studies show. All these studies when they're talking about this post-workout nutrition, and even the studies where chocolate milk beat post-workout recovery supplements, this was people training fasted. If you consumed breakfast, it isn't as important that you worry about absorption to a large extent. But carbohydrate calories post-training are going to be more anabolic and superior for recovery to fat calories. And the fat calories are going to slow down absorption of those carbohydrates. So it's a double loss there, triple loss really, because one, there's some sort of blunting response to fat immediately after training that we don't understand. That's one factor that's baffling researchers. Number two, there's the fact that fat calories you're consuming means less carbohydrates being consumed. And number three, fat calories are going to slow down the absorption of the carbohydrates. Again, it's not necessary to get fast absorbing carbs, but you sure don't want to cut them down to a third of what they would have absorbed at normally. I mean, even if you're consuming some whole wheat pasta, dumping a bunch of butter in it, is certainly not going to help you absorb it faster. It's not going to help you get to your muscles any faster. And it's not necessary to get fast absorbing ones, but don't slow it down dramatically. There's nothing wrong with consuming just some pasta and a little bit of lean chicken, or even some pasta and some beans if you wanted. That's what people need to factor in there. It's going to be carbohydrates first, protein second, immediately after you train. Good, we didn't get a pop there. A little worried that was going to be loud for a second. But it would have been interesting, wouldn't it? It would have woken you guys up, having to push out a live primer. So here's the take home with all of that. Simply put, carbohydrates are going to replenish muscle glycogen more quickly. If your muscle glycogen is replenished more quickly, you're ready to train again sooner. You're ready for other physical activity later. A lot of people don't just train and then sit around and do nothing the rest of the day. They might be physically active. They might have to go do some cardio later. They might have some physical work they have to do. You know what? A lot of people go train on their lunch break at work, or they train immediately before work in the morning. You know what? Getting some carbohydrates in with no fat to slow that down, very, very lean carb and protein sources, is going to help them replenish their muscles through the day. A lot of people have jobs where they've got to be physically active or on their feet all day after they train, because they train during their lunch break or in the morning. Well, those people, getting that glycogen replenished as quickly as possible is a good idea. People who train more than once a day, people who do cardio of any type on the same day they train, getting that muscle glycogen replenished is probably a pretty good idea. Don't need to mess around with fats that blunt training response and slow the absorption. Get some carbs in. Get enough to replenish what you burned. I'm not saying, again, that you need 1,000 calories of carbohydrates or that you need some sugary drink, but get some carbs in. I don't care, some pancakes, some oatmeal, some pasta. You know what? If you like fruit, a few pieces of fruit, but get carbs in. Limit your fat and get carbs in after you train. It's not that complicated of a concept, guys. Fat doesn't replenish muscle glycogen. Carbohydrates do. And then make sure you're getting in a little bit of protein with that also. Pretty good idea. Doesn't need to be an enormous amount of protein. Get some protein in. I don't care where you get it from. You want a protein shake or fart powder? That's fine. You want to eat a few bites of chicken? You want to eat a chicken sandwich? You want to have a lean steak? Some Greek yogurt? I don't care. You know what? If you're vegan and you want to have a tofu burger with bean and tofu burger on some whole wheat toast to make a sandwich, then do that post-workout. You know what? But get some carbs in and a little bit of protein and limit your fat after you train. It's not that difficult. We know from all the data out there that replenishes muscle glycogen fastest. It facilitates muscle recovery the quickest, and it will get you ready for more physical activity sooner. Now, is that as big of a deal for people who lift weights once a day and don't do any other physical activity between that and their next session? It's not as important. You know why? Because muscle glycogen replenishment doesn't matter if you're not going to be physically active in the next 24 hours, because you're going to get the food in anyways. You'll get it in. But not everyone lives that type of lifestyle. A lot of pro bodybuilders might live that way. Most other people don't. So for everyone else, get some carbs in. And again, definitely people who do cardio every day. There's a lot of us, like me, like my girlfriend, who do cardio 7 days a week. We do cardio every day. Well, if we train, we know we're going to be doing cardio later. Last thing we want to do is have glycogen not replenished from our lifting. So if you're one of those people, and you should be, if you care about your health and your fitness, I'm not talking about body composition. You know, people worry about the wrong stuff here. Cardio isn't necessary for body composition, and it's possible to gain fat while doing hours and hours of cardio. It's still calories in, calories out. But if you care about your heart health, you care about your fitness, you should be doing some cardio every day, including days that you lift. So if you're one of those people, getting some carbs in quickly after you train so that your glycogen is replenished by the time you get around to doing some cardio is going to help you adapt a lot better to your weight training, and it's going to help you burn more calories and get more efficiency from your actual cardio, because you don't want to be still replenishing muscle glycogen from your lifting by the time you get around to doing some cardio. That is not the best way to make good training adaptations. So this is really more simple than people make it out to be. We don't fully understand the whole high fat thing post-workout as to what the actual problems are with blunting training response. But we do know that carbohydrate calories are superior to fat calories. Even protein calories are superior to fat calories dramatically post-workout in terms of recovery and glycogen replenishment. No need to complicate it, guys. Get some carbs in and get a little protein in. Try to keep your fat low. It's pretty simple. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.